The air was thick with the scent of fresh flowers, and the soft hum of laughter filled the grand wedding venue. As I stood among the sea of elegantly dressed guests, I felt like a ghost, invisible amidst the vibrant colors and joyous chatter. My daughter Emily was the radiant center of attention, and I couldn't help but feel a pang of envy mixed with sorrow. The way people admired her, the way they laughed at her jokes, it all felt like a sharp reminder of my own insignificance. I adjusted the collar of my dress nervously, the fabric scratching against my skin, a stark contrast to the warmth of the sun streaming through the large windows. As the ceremony commenced, I watched Emily exchange vows with her partner, Mark. My heart swelled with pride, but it was quickly followed by a wave of bitterness. I remembered the countless times I had tried to connect with her, only to be met with her dismissive attitude. "You're just being overdramatic, Mom," she would say, rolling her eyes as if my feelings were trivial. I wanted to shout to make her see me, but the words caught in my throat. The overwhelming desire to be acknowledged battled against my deep-seated fear of rejection. The moment finally arrived when Emily stood before the guests, her voice clear and confident as she began to speak. "I want to thank everyone for being here today," she said, her smile brightening the room. But then she turned to me, her expression shifting, and my heart sank. "And I especially want to acknowledge my mom, who has always been. Well, let's just say she's always been there, even if she's not really present." A hush fell over the crowd, followed by awkward laughter. I felt my cheeks flush, the heat of embarrassment flooding through me. How could she say that? I was standing right there, feeling every bit of my invisibility. My breath hitched, and I could feel the weight of their gazes, heavy with judgment. I wanted to disappear, to escape this moment that felt like a cruel joke. But deep down, a flicker of resolve ignited within me. I would not let this go unchallenged. I would make my presence known, even if it meant confronting the painful truth of our relationship. This was my chance to reclaim my voice, to show Emily the depth of my love and the hurt that her words had caused. The reception area was a kaleidoscope of colors, with shimmering lights reflecting off the crystal chandeliers that hung from the high ceiling. The sweet scent of vanilla and fresh roses wafted through the air, mingling with the sound of clinking glasses and laughter. I stood at the edge of the room, gripping the back of a chair, my knuckles white as I watched Emily interact with her friends. They were all so animated, their laughter ringing like music, while I felt like a mere observer lost in the background. My heart raced with a mix of pride and unease. This was her moment, yet I was not part of it. As I shifted my weight from one foot to the other, I caught glimpses of family members, their smiles bright but their eyes darting around, perhaps sensing the undercurrents of tension. My mother, Linda, sat at a table, her hands clasped tightly in her lap, her brow furrowed in concern. She had always been the protector, yet today, even her presence felt like a barrier between Emily and me. I could hear snippets of conversations around me, whispers of admiration for the bride, but also remarks that stung. "She's so lucky to have such a supportive mother, isn't she?" one guest remarked, their tone laced with an unspoken comparison that made my stomach churn. I recalled a moment from years ago, sitting in the living room with Emily, her teenage face twisted in frustration as she shouted, "You just don't get it, Mom." The memory ignited a familiar ache in my chest, a reminder of the distance that had grown between us. I wanted to bridge that gap, to reach out and show her my unwavering love, but each attempt seemed to push her further away. Now, as I stood in this vibrant room, I felt the weight of unspoken words pressing down on me, threatening to suffocate my resolve. Then I felt a gentle hand on my shoulder. It was Mark, Emily's partner, offering a reassuring smile. "You okay?" he asked, his voice low and steady. I nodded, but the tremor in my hands betrayed me. I wanted to tell him about the frustration bubbling inside me, about how I felt like a ghost in my own family, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, I forced a smile, hoping it would mask the turmoil within. As the evening unfolded, I could sense the tension building, a storm brewing beneath the surface. I had to confront Emily. The thought sent a jolt of anxiety through me, but I knew that if I didn't speak up now, I might lose her forever. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what was to come. This was my moment, the moment I had waited for, and I would not let it slip away. The anticipation curled in my stomach like a tight knot, but I was determined to make my voice heard. Today, I would not be invisible. As the laughter from the reception floated into the backstage area, a contrasting silence enveloped me. The vibrant colors and joyous sounds felt like a distant world, one I was not a part of. My fingers traced the edge of the table where I stood, its surface smooth yet cold, reminding me of the chasm between my daughter and me. Each clink of glasses from the party echoed in my ears, a reminder of the joy I felt I could never touch. I could see the lively chatter through the curtain, but it only deepened my sense of isolation. I was both present and absent, a paradox that weighed heavily on my heart. My heart raced as I replayed Emily's earlier words in my mind, each syllable sharp and stinging. How could she publicly diminish my role in her life like that? I squeezed my eyes shut, trying to block the memories of our past arguments. I recalled a night when I had desperately tried to connect with her, only for her to scoff, "You're not even here, Mom." The echo of her voice haunted me, reminding me of how often I had felt like a mere spectator in my own family. I opened my eyes, staring into the dim light of the backstage, the soft glow barely illuminating the shadows of my insecurities. I took a deep breath, feeling the tension coiling in my stomach like a tightly wound spring. The moment when I would confront Emily was approaching, and I needed to gather my thoughts. I had to reclaim my voice to break the chains of invisibility that had bound me for so long. But doubt gnawed at me. Was I truly ready to face the consequences? The societal expectations whispered that I should remain silent, that my role as a mother was to support, to stand at the sidelines rather than to confront. Yet with every heartbeat, I felt a surge of determination to break free from that mold. Just then, I heard the soft rustle of fabric and turned to see Mark peeking in. His expression was a blend of concern and encouragement. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice low, almost as if he were afraid to disturb the fragile air around me. I nodded, though the tremor in my hands betrayed my facade of calm. "I just need a moment before I go out there," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. Mark nodded, understanding the weight of the moment. He stepped back, allowing me to gather my thoughts, but I could still sense his eyes on me, a silent reminder of the support I had. With a deep exhale, I stepped closer to the curtain, peering through the fabric at the happy faces beyond. My heart clenched as I watched Emily laughing, her smile radiant and carefree. There she was, the daughter I loved fiercely, yet felt so disconnected from. Would she understand my pain, my need to be seen? I could feel the pressure building inside me, a storm ready to erupt. I had to make my announcement, to reveal the hidden truths that had kept us apart. The thought of exposing our family's secrets sent a chill down my spine, but I knew it was necessary. I could no longer allow my silence to be mistaken for consent. The sudden sound of a toast being raised in the hall pulled me back to the present. Laughter erupted as guests toasted to the couple, their joy a stark contrast to my festering turmoil. I glanced at my reflection in a nearby mirror, catching a glimpse of the woman I had become, determined yet fragile, poised on the edge of a precipice. My heart raced, and I felt the heat of anger rising within me. I deserved to be heard, to share my truths without fear of judgment. This was my chance, the moment I had been waiting for. I would not let fear dictate my actions any longer. Today, I would reclaim my voice, and I would not let anybody silence me again. The clamor of the wedding reception faded into a dull roar as I stood on the precipice of confrontation, the weight of my unspoken truths pressing heavily on my chest. My fingers trembled slightly, the cool glass of champagne in my hand a feeble anchor in the tumult of emotions swirling around me. The air was thick with the sweet scent of cake and floral arrangements, yet all I could focus on was the knot of anxiety tightening in my stomach. I had to confront Emily. I could no longer allow her dismissive laughter to define my existence. As I made my way through the crowd, my heart raced, each beat echoing the urgency of my resolve. The laughter of guests filled the air, a stark contrast to the storm brewing within me. I caught sight of Emily, her face glowing with delight as she twirled in her wedding dress, completely immersed in her joy. The scene tugged at my heartstrings. She was beautiful, radiant, yet I felt like a shadow lurking at the edge, unwanted and unnoticed. My throat tightened at the thought of her laughter, once a sound that brought me joy, now became a haunting reminder of my estrangement. The cake-cutting ceremony was just moments away, and I could feel the anticipation in the air, thick and palpable. As the guests gathered around, I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the confrontation I had long avoided. The glimmering knife poised above the cake felt symbolic, sharp, ready to slice through the layers of our family's facade, revealing the bittersweet truths hidden beneath. I glanced around, catching snippets of conversation, laughter intermingling with the clinking of glasses, and I felt a flicker of defiance. I couldn't remain silent any longer. My silence had been mistaken for compliance, and I would not allow that to continue. Each laugh, each smile directed at Emily stung like 1,000 needles, igniting the anger simmering just beneath the surface. I had been her mother, her supporter, but I felt like an intruder in her life. The very idea that I was still an afterthought gnawed at me, but resentment was no longer an option. I had to speak up. As the moment approached, I watched Emily lean into Mark, her laughter brightening the room. I felt a pang of longing for the connection we once shared, longing for her to see me, really see me. My heart raced as I caught her eye, and for a fleeting moment I thought I saw a flicker of recognition, a hint of understanding. But it vanished as quickly as it appeared, replaced by her joyful chatter with friends, leaving me once again in the shadows. Then the moment arrived, the cake was cut and the crowd erupted into cheers. I felt the heat of their joy wash over me, but it only intensified my feelings of isolation. I had to act before the moment slipped away. My legs moved almost of their own accord, carrying me toward Emily, the tension in my body palpable. I could feel the eyes of the guests on me, a mix of curiosity and surprise. "Emily," I called, my voice surprisingly steady despite the chaos swirling in my mind. Her laughter stilled and the crowd quieted, turning to face me. I could feel the weight of their gazes, and for a moment I hesitated, doubt creeping in. But I had come too far to back down now. "I need to speak to you now," I demanded, the urgency in my voice cutting through the silence. Emily's brows furrowed in confusion, but I could see a flicker of annoyance flash across her face. She stepped away from Mark, her expression shifting from joy to irritation. "Mom, not now. This is my wedding," she exclaimed, her tone sharp as she brushed a strand of hair behind her ear, an unconscious gesture of defiance. But I could feel the anger building inside me, a fire igniting that could no longer be contained. "No, Emily, this is exactly when," I replied, my heart pounding as I pushed through the crowd, determined to bridge the chasm between us. "You may think I'm invisible, but I refuse to let you define my worth any longer." The words burst from me, raw and unfiltered, and I could see the surprise wash over her face. This was my moment, and I would not let it slip away. It was time to confront the truth we had buried for too long, and I was ready to face the fallout, no matter how devastating it might be. The aftermath of my confrontation with Emily hung in the air like a thick fog, obscuring any clear path to reconciliation. I found myself seated at the edge of the family meeting room, the tension palpable as we all awaited the inevitable discussion. The walls, painted in soft pastels, seemed to close in on me, their colors muted by the weight of unspoken grievances. I could hear the distant hum of voices, laughter from the reception still echoing outside, a stark reminder of the joy we had just disrupted. My heart raced, each thud echoing my anxiety as I fidgeted with the hem of my shirt, the fabric rough against my skin. Emily entered the room, her eyes downcast, avoiding mine as she took her seat across from me. I could see the flush of anger still coloring her cheeks, a lingering trace of the chaos from moments before. My throat tightened, each word I had rehearsed falling away like leaves from a tree in autumn. I desperately wanted to reach out, to bridge the chasm that had opened between us, yet I felt paralyzed by the fear of pushing her further away. I cleared my throat, the sound echoing in the otherwise still room, a signal that I was ready to address the elephant in the room. "Emily, I know I've hurt you, and I didn't mean to make this day about me," I began, my voice steadier than I felt. I paused, searching her expression for any sign of understanding, but found only a cool mask of indifference. "I just want you to know that your happiness is all I've ever wanted. I've felt invisible for so long, and it pains me to think you see me that way." A flicker of surprise crossed her face, but it was quickly replaced by a wall of defiance. "You don't get it, do you? You've always been about yourself," she shot back, her voice rising. It stung, the sharpness of her words cutting through the tension like a knife. I felt the warmth of tears prickling at the corners of my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. Instead, I took a deep breath, reminding myself of the love that had once bound us. "I know I've made mistakes, but I'm here now, willing to listen," I replied, my heart racing as I leaned forward, yearning for connection. "Can we not try to find a way to move forward? I want to understand your feelings, truly." Emily's gaze softened for a moment, and I seized the opportunity. "I've seen you thrive today, and it reminded me of the little girl who used to look at me with so much love. I miss that, I miss us." I felt the urgency in my voice, each word a plea for her to acknowledge our past, to reconnect amidst the wreckage. Her shoulders slumped slightly, and I could sense the walls beginning to crack. "I just don't want to feel like I have to choose between you and my life with Mark," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. The vulnerability in her tone struck a chord in me, and I immediately reached out, placing my hand on the table, a silent offer of peace. "You don't have to choose, sweetheart. I want to be part of your life, not a shadow lurking in the background. We can figure this out together," I said, my voice trembling with hope. As I watched her contemplate my words, a flicker of something, perhaps hope, crossed her face. The air felt lighter, as if the weight of our past grievances was beginning to lift, but I knew the road ahead would be fraught with challenges. We were both wounded, and healing would take time. Yet for the first time in a long while, I felt a glimmer of possibility, a chance for us to rebuild what had been broken, to truly see each other again. I just hoped it would be enough to mend the rift between us before it was too late. As I stood there, my heart pounding like a drum, the atmosphere shifted palpably. The laughter that once filled the air fell to a hush, like a curtain descending on a stage. I could feel the weight of the crowd's gaze on me, their anticipation thickening the air around us. I took a deep breath, the scent of fresh roses mingling with the faint traces of champagne, grounding me as I prepared to confront my daughter. The moment felt electric, charged with the tension of unspoken truths. I watched Emily, her expression a mixture of confusion and annoyance, and my resolve strengthened. I couldn't let her dismiss my feelings any longer. I stepped forward, my voice cutting through the silence. "Emily, we need to talk right now." My words hung heavy in the air, and I could see the flicker of surprise in her eyes. She hesitated, her brows knitting together as she processed my demand. The laughter and chatter around us faded into a distant murmuring, leaving just the two of us in a world of our own. "Mom, not here, not now," she replied, her tone sharp and defensive, but I could sense a crack in her armor. Each second that passed felt like an eternity, my heart racing as I fought against the urge to retreat into invisibility once more. No, Emily, this is exactly when, I pressed, my voice rising with a mix of fear and determination. The guests shifted uncomfortably, their eyes darting between us, sensing the brewing storm. I clenched my fists, feeling the coolness of the glass in my hand as a reminder of my purpose. You may think I'm invisible, but I refuse to let you define my worth any longer. The words spilled out, raw and unfiltered, and I could see the surprise wash over her face. In that moment, the air crackled with tension, a palpable energy that seemed to hold the crowd in thrall. I was teetering on the edge of a precipice, ready to leap into the unknown, knowing that what I said next could irrevocably change our relationship. I had to speak my truth to break the silence that had held me captive for too long. This was my moment, and I would not let it slip away. Standing in the dimly lit backstage area, I could almost hear the muffled laughter and clinking of glasses from the wedding reception, a stark reminder of the joy that felt so distant from me. The smooth surface of the table felt cool beneath my fingertips as I paced back and forth, my mind racing with the weight of what I needed to do. Every step felt heavy with anticipation. I had been quiet for too long, allowing Emily's perception of me to shape my existence. The shadows around me seemed to echo my inner turmoil. It was time to break the silence and reveal the truth that lay buried beneath years of resentment and misunderstanding. I took a deep breath, letting the scent of fresh roses and vanilla cake fill my lungs, grounding me in this moment of resolve. On the table lay my notes, hastily scribbled thoughts that felt like a lifeline. Each word was a reminder of my determination to expose the secrets that had haunted our family for too long. I could picture Emily's face, the surprise mixed with confusion that would undoubtedly follow my announcement. Would she finally see me for who I truly was? I picked up a pen, the weight of it heavy in my hand as I jotted down the key points I needed to address. My fingers trembled slightly, but I pressed on, fueled by a mix of anxiety and adrenaline. I recalled a time when I had tried to voice my feelings, only to be met with dismissive laughter. "You're just overreacting, Mom," echoed in my mind, a painful reminder of the distance that had grown between us. But this time would be different. I would not be reduced to a punchline. My silence would no longer be mistaken for consent. I looked down at the notes, knowing that revealing our family's hidden truths could shatter the fragile dynamics we had built. Yet if it meant reclaiming my voice, it was a risk I was willing to take. As I stood there, I felt the sharp edge of uncertainty clawing at my resolve. What if this announcement drove a wedge further between us? But then I remembered my own worth, the love I had for Emily that was buried beneath layers of misunderstanding and hurt. I tightened my grip on the pen, a symbol of my determination. This was the moment I had been waiting for. I would unveil the truth, face the fallout, and finally stand tall in my own narrative. No longer would I be invisible, not today, not ever again. My heart raced with a mix of fear and exhilaration as I prepared to step back into the light, ready to confront the truth that had long remained in the shadows. As I stepped into the reception hall, the air crackled with anticipation, each whisper and laugh from the guests like a distant drum roll urging me forward. The vibrant colors of the decor seemed to swirl around me, yet I felt a stark contrast in my chest, a heavy, swirling storm of unresolved emotions. The moment had arrived. I could feel the weight of every second pressing down on my shoulders. I took a deep breath, the sweet scent of vanilla and roses filling my lungs, grounding me in this pivotal moment. I glanced at Emily, radiant in her wedding dress, surrounded by her friends, their laughter a warm embrace that felt foreign to me. Would she truly understand what I was about to do? As I approached, the crowd's chatter diminished, the buzz of voices fading into a tense silence, all eyes drawn towards me. I could feel my heart pounding, each beat echoing the urgency of my resolve. This was it. "Emily," I called out, my voice cutting through the stillness with unexpected clarity. She turned, surprise flickering across her features, quickly masked by annoyance. "Mom, not now. This is my wedding," she shot back, a frown creasing her brow as she instinctively moved closer to Mark. Yet I pressed on, the fire of determination igniting within me. "No, this is exactly when," I declared, my voice steady despite the tumult of emotions swirling inside. "You may think I'm invisible, but I refuse to let you define my worth any longer." The words spilled forth, raw and unfiltered, and I could see the shock wash over her face, the crowd holding its breath in rapt attention. The tension was palpable, a living entity coiling around us, binding the moment in heavy silence. I've kept quiet for too long, allowing the secrets of our family to shape my identity. "It's time to be honest," I continued, feeling the heat of vulnerability wash over me as I prepared to unveil the truths we had buried. The room felt electric, and I could see the flicker of uncertainty in Emily's eyes, a crack in the facade of her confidence. I could hear whispers among the guests, a mixture of shock and intrigue, the atmosphere thick with anticipation. I pressed on, my voice unwavering. "I am not just your mother. I am a person with my own feelings, my own pain. I love you, Emily, but you need to see me for who I am, not just who you want me to be." The words hung in the air, heavy with unresolved tension, threatening to break the fragile calm. Then came the wave of reactions, gasps escaping from various corners of the room, eyes wide with disbelief. I could feel the heat rising in my cheeks, a mix of fear and catharsis washing over me. The murmurs grew louder, voices overlapping as guests processed my revelation. Emily's expression shifted, anger contorting her features. "You're making this about you?" she shouted, her voice cracking. The chaos erupted around us, laughter turning to hushed whispers, shock rippling through the crowd like a wave. Yet amidst the turmoil I stood firm, my heart racing yet resolute. I had finally broken my silence, and though the aftermath was chaotic, I felt lighter, as if a weight had been lifted. As the emotional storm raged on, I realized that the journey to reclaim my voice was just beginning, and I was ready to face whatever came next. The atmosphere in the family meeting room was thick with unspoken words, the air heavy as I sat across from Emily, my heart still racing from the confrontation that had just transpired. The walls, painted in soft hues, felt like they were closing in, a stark contrast to the vibrant chaos of the wedding reception that had just erupted outside. I could hear the distant sounds of laughter and clinking glasses, a reminder of the joy that now felt so far removed from our reality. My fingers fidgeted with the hem of my blouse, the fabric rough against my skin, as I braced myself for the conversation ahead. Emily's expression was a complex tapestry of frustration and confusion, her brows furrowed tightly, and though I could see the anger simmering beneath her surface, there was also a flicker of vulnerability that I hadn't noticed before. "You made a scene, Mom," she blurted out, her voice tinged with disbelief. I could see the weight of my words pressing upon her, and it pained me to think that I had caused her distress on what was supposed to be her perfect day. Yet deep down I knew that my silence had been a far greater burden. "I know I did, and I'm sorry for the way it came out, but it was necessary," I replied, my voice steady despite the turmoil within me. I took a deep breath, feeling the tension in my chest begin to ease slightly. "I've been invisible for so long, Emily. I didn't want to be just a background character in your life anymore. I wanted you to understand that I have feelings too, that I've hurt just as much as you have." As I spoke, I noticed a change in her demeanor. The tightness in her shoulders began to relax, and her gaze shifted from anger to contemplation. I don't know how to balance everything, Mom. I feel like I'm being pulled in so many directions, and you expect me to just drop everything for you?" The vulnerability in her voice cut through my defenses, and I felt a pang of empathy for the struggles she faced. "I never wanted to add to your burdens, sweetheart. I just wanted to be part of your life, not a shadow lurking in the background," I said, my voice softer now, reaching out for her. I could see the walls she had built around herself beginning to crack, and I felt a glimmer of hope. "We can work through this together, but I need you to meet me halfway. I'm here, ready to listen to you, to understand your world." There was a moment of silence as Emily processed my words, her features softening as she absorbed the weight of our conversation. I could feel the tension in the room shift, the air feeling lighter as we began to navigate the complexities of our relationship. It was clear that healing wouldn't happen overnight, but for the first time in a long while, I felt a sense of relief wash over me. Perhaps this was the beginning of a new chapter for us, one where we could truly see each other again, with all our flaws and vulnerabilities. As we continued to talk, I realized that while the journey ahead would be challenging, we were finally on the path to rebuilding our relationship.